Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today I want to talk about the FJ-4B VBF-232. It's a beautiful plane. I love how it looks, the 3D model, the skin, and also the look of those big rockets, of which we have 5, which are the AGM-12B Bullpup. Now, they are the actual selling point, and they are guided missiles. This is a first off for planes, at least in War Thunder, and we'll see, practically ATGMs with the introduction of the new patch 1.81 with helicopters. But for now, this is all that we have aside from tanks itself. Now, they got changed as of today with how to guide them. So obviously, I want to talk you through how to set it up, how to use it, and how to effectively use it. Furthermore, I want to talk you through in theory how to use SPA efficiently against them. And this is straightforward in the first place, that you actually use SPA, which is an absolute no-brainer, but how to use it effectively and how to not get focused by those planes. That maybe is something that I talked about in a previous video, but I shall quickly recap it to get out the essentials and make you aware that I actually made a video how to SPA. The next thing is, what is this plane? Well, first of all, it's the 2018 summer event reward plane, the highest of the two, and the FJ-4B VBF-232, much like the A-26C-45, or for the Russians the LA-174, is a reward plane in the tech tree line, but without any premium bonus, so no increase Silverline or RP income. Furthermore, you have to unlock all the modules yourself, like with the tech tree counterpart that also sits at 9.0. One word about 9.0. I disagree about the fact that 9.0 should be a battle rating of gift planes, at least when this is the highest battle rating, because we see kind of a big spam of this, and it completely ruins RRB, especially for, well, this plane itself. The plane itself is not bad, but it doesn't really fit in the ground attacker role, the meta of RRB, if every single plane gets flown in this meta, and we'll show you a clip later on. So I cannot possibly talk about every single aspect of the plane. I'm sorry about this. So I have to neglect on some aspects of it, of course. But the most important I want to show. So first of all, here the AGM-12B Bullpups. They have the very same statistics as the Tiny Tim rockets, the same TNT equivalent, splash radius, everything. They're quite impressive. Furthermore, the plane has the Hydra 70s 114, to which will come in a moment, and it also is equipped with 4 20mm Browning Colt Mark 12 Mod 3 cannons with 580 rounds. And they are centrally mounted. They are practically, don't quote me on this, similar to the Saber, to the F2 Saber, how to aim them and how effective they are. I swear that the universal belt is just the best one. Now, very experienced jet pilots might disagree and recommend another belt of any sort, but this is what worked for me. So then we come to the downsides. You see, Gaijin should have known what would this result in with, you know, giving this out as a reward plane that people can effectively buy themselves into top tier as being top tier, which is a bit of a difference now to the XM1. Furthermore, this is an addition in terms of CAS to the strongest CAS nation in the game furthermore. So this is not an Italian or a French or a Japanese plane, which really would kind of need it. Not so much the French, but you know what I mean. It's again to the Americans that are already pretty strong in the CAS role. And yeah, I think this is not very good. And the selling point, how to aim those rockets, that was changed. And I will show you just in a moment how this worked out. But basically it was a nerf after they sold a huge amount of them, or, you know, a majority of people got their hands on those planes. Now let's have a quick look at how to set it up. So we go here under controls, you're directly at aircraft and control modes by default, and you might have here different settings. This is all how you personally want this, but the three aspects or the four main aspects are the following: fire rocket, 4 and mouse button 5 for me. You might also take another mouse button if you feel comfortable with firing the rocket from that perspective, and fire rocket salvo if you use the other rockets, you know, of which you have 114. You might want to use the fire rocket salvo to have few rockets in the near vicinity of the target, because they are based on the heat damage or the heat mechanic and not the HE splash damage radius. Then there are the two main objectives, and I am using here the key bindings. For the arrow keys, or I'm using the arrow keys for the key bindings, so to say, as key bindings. And so jaw axis for aim weapons, and maximum value to the right, minimum value to the left. And then you also want to overtake here those settings. So you want to pause the video, and after you have done it like this, don't forget to go to save changes. Afterwards, you do the same with pitch axis for aim weapons, and here it is, maximum value down, minimum value up. Or if you don't want to simulate here some sort of joystick control with a two-dimensional surface control, you want to change that up. But the other ones should be used like this. So again, you do this as you see it here, and then go to save changes. Now, how has this changed? Well, first of all, until yesterday, because today came the change as I'm recording the video, you could fire the rocket, go to then the rocket view, or basically what is the U key for me, and then you saw the game from the rocket's perspective, and then you just could guide it into the target if you had enough time to actually correct the camera angle and also look where the target is. I came across several issues. First of all, you had to be far enough away to do so, but you had to know where the target is. And with the render issues with some of the maps, this was kind of a disgusting experience. And the most efficient way was, surprise, surprise, direct fire, because the rockets, unlike the tiny TIMs, which they are practically based on, or statistic-wise copy and paste, they have no drop for a few kilometers. So you can directly or nearly directly shoot at the target and just splash it to death. And especially SPAA, you just can hit a few meters or a few dozen meters away from them and still initiate hull break, which is, I don't like that. Okay, this remembers me like on the old days of CAS, like over a year ago, when you could just fire some British fighter rocket at a mouse and just destroy it without even directly hitting it, which is kind of disgusting, and so are they. But they are limited, you only have 5, but this is 2 more than on the already quite unique F7F3, which had 3 rockets but only 2 launches, because 2 of them launched parallel, and here you have 5 separate launches. This, by the way, seems to be the control thingy for the rockets. So now at the moment you cannot really guide the rockets efficiently, because now you have to guide them from the perspective of the plane. And why not just go for direct fire, which is easier and just more reliable in the first place, while you also can do evasive actions. So there is that, at least in my opinion. So without further ado, let's hop into some gameplay and see what is what. So the first little scene is about Air RB, and you can see the entire team consists of nothing but this plane, which wouldn't be bad if it would be really competitive, but you can see roughly half of the team, including me, is actually set up for ground attacking. And so if half of your fighters go on ground striking, you know, that's a bit of a problem if the enemy team is pure fighter, because at the end, fighters will win the game. But we have a perfect start. What was that? Somebody crashed, he fires his rockets, and he actually team kills 2 of us. So that's 3 people down already when we started. And this is adding to the reason why so many matches are lost and why the enemy team has it so easy, because they can climb, they have the energy advantage, they have less drag, they have overall better performance, and they will just farm the ground strikers. And even if a fair amount of people try to use this thing as fighter, they're most likely stock compared to most likely fully upgraded opposition, and they're outnumbered. So this leads to, I guess, ridiculous win numbers for the non-American teams. Now I want to show you how this actually worked yesterday in terms of mechanics and how it still works today. So I'm going here with a reserve tank into a high tier RB match, and I'm just, you know, throwing myself into the direction of the cap. Thankfully this tank is rather fast. I see if anybody is coming with me to cap. Yes, the Hellcat is also going in, so I now cap. Regardless of how much you participate in the capture process, you get 300 spawn points. And this tank costs not that many spawn points to take out in the first place. And I also launch an artillery strike on C, where I expect many enemy tanks trying to participate in the capture process as well. And that gains me also a few spawn points. Eventually, it gives me enough spawn points to just throw the tank away and just get into an airplane. And I heavily despise the fact that this is possible. And believe me, I didn't do that just once. I did it just to see if this is really something that I can make work myself. And again, this is now not possible anymore, how to shoot the rocket. So I go up and then I try to slow the plane down by climbing and also extracting by using here the air brakes. And here you can see how to guide the rocket. This is now no longer possible, but look at this. I hit the building and I splash the KPZ-70 from above. Those are strong rockets. However, you have to be quite a distance away to make use out of this, because you then have to find the camera angle, and you should shoot into the very general direction of the enemy tank in the first place to not have to correct that much. Much like with the Fritz X, although the Fritz X is much slower and a guided bomb with a much more restricted fire, correction angles. And here you can see I'm doing the most stupid stuff here. And yeah, the enemy plane gets a strike into me, but you can see, and this happened to me multiple times, the plane is pretty rugged. The plane can take some stuff. And this is how I use the rockets actually in the first place. You can see it's flying in a straight line up to 2 kilometers. That was sadly not close enough. We go much closer and we get again a splash strike here on another German tank, Leopard A1A1. And we just move out of the way. Now, there is a synergy of those planes because it is still some sort of fighter, and I can, evade here the attack, more or less, stall myself out, and while I cannot get guns on this guy, my teammate can. And so teamwork is again very strong with this plane. Okay, and now something very serious. So in the following, you will see after this picture gameplay in the Shilka with some basic tips and tricks how to use SPA, especially radar guided SPA, to effectively counter the spam of this plane, at least in tank RB. And after that I will continue with my opinion on the overall situation, and I hope that you give me the few minutes of your time to listen to what I have to say. So in the background you can see the Shilka, and as you can see I'm moving to the front line. I'm moving with my team, but I always want to be safe from enemy tanks. So situational awareness is important. Also eventually, if necessary, reposition and just fleeing the situation. If my team gets overrun by enemy tanks, there is not much that I can do in this particular SBA. And also when there are enemy planes in the air, do not shoot too late, but also in particular do not shoot too early. Nice internet, by the way. So ignore that for the moment. The thing is, if you open up too early, even with the aiming reticle, that is still giving the enemy plane time to do evasive actions and then just move out of your zone of effective firing or your firing arcs. And also, if possible, use hard cover to just be safe from the first rocket strike, because obviously you as an SBA are the first primary target with the first attack run with the long strike where the enemy plane is still safe. Your tracers give your position away to the enemy tanks, but also to the enemy planes. So constant repositioning, constant adapting to the situation, using hard cover, and firing not too early, and giving yourself the best possible beginning situation, so to say, is mandatory. So that was the first kill, and now I have a very important message. So again, to recap, the very first rocket strike that you saw me doing in the plane is now no longer possible. The way that I did it, in terms of getting the perspective of the rockets and then guiding it with the arrow keys into target. You still can use the arrow keys to guide the rocket, but from a very different perspective, from the perspective of the plane. And that makes it so much more difficult to effectively use the rockets in that particular manner. So the actual aspect of the guided rockets is not that important anymore. The rockets are still very, very strong. They are very, very efficient in the, dumb fire mode. To just use the reticle, point it in a certain situation or a certain place over the enemy tank, even 2 kilometers away, pull the trigger and roll out of the way. That is efficient, as I will show you in some clips later on, versus SBA, to splash them, to initiate hull break, which is disgusting at the distances that you can do it, even the splash occurring. And also enemy tanks that are heavily armored, even with modern armor, because it just bypasses it with the splash mechanic, going through the ground, going through the belly armor, the bottom of the tank. Ignore the shooting here, by the way. And that is just something that I want to, mention here. The main message, the important message here is, it's a betrayal, it's a scam. Now, in which way? First of all, I agree that it had to be nerfed because it was way too strong against tanks and the natural counter, the radar guided SPA. You just could simply outrange them and be more or less safe. There were too many planes in the air doing this job effectively, and it shouldn't have been implemented like this in the first place. Gaijin, please, we are now no longer in the beta phase of War Thunder. The game is in full release for not just a week or a month, for years by now. And just, be aware of this. And this is a betrayal. And the reason why there is no outcry, no massive rant about, this plane getting a change to its actual game mechanic that makes it unique, the selling point literally, is that we are so used to it. And this is a problem with Gaijin and War Thunder in general. The game has so much more potential, but with actions like these, Gaijin puts the reputation at risk of Gaijin, repelling a lot of players or potential customers from actually getting into it in the first place. And this is just not what I think is very wise or very healthy for the game in the short run and the long run. So that is just my opinion. And we are just so used to this kind of, practice, and it shouldn't be like this. Maybe we are in a status like America is there right now. Gaijin has done so many no-goes in the past, and we are so used to it, and still just, you know, going on with it every single day. And it's okay, or we shouldn't talk about it, and one or the other is, you know, saying, oh, it shouldn't be like this, but overall it's just it's a drop on the hot stone, as we say in Germany. And you know, it's like with Trump in America, he's doing so many things that are an absolute no-go, or would have been the death of the career of another US president, but by now he can screw up even more. We just don't, you know, see the magnitude of this anymore, and this shouldn't be like that. And while this is a game, you know, this game is a big portion of my life. I'm playing it for hours every day, and with actions like this, it's just I'm not really angry in the way that I was with previous incidents like this. It's more like that I'm just sad about this, shaking my head, and could go on. And if not for, you know, and if not for my YouTube channel, I wouldn't even have spoken out about this, just saying, yeah, that was a typical Gaijin one, wasn't it? And I don't see that this is really the way that it should be. Again, a lot of you might not see what I tried to say, or just, you know, I just stop ranting and try again. But with things all coming like this way over and over again, patch after patch, week after week, month after month, you know, the little things, the big things, that's just, in the long run, destroying War Thunder more than the appearance of so many more new games. It shouldn't be like this. So let me know in the comment section if you agree or disagree with that statement. So, and here we are in the Shilka still, and there is another customer coming in, and you can see how I position myself. There I always stay close to the rocks, but I try to always have a line of fire with the potential of getting into cover again. And if you kill 1 or 2 planes or 3 planes, it's actually worth it. You win the spawn point battle, you just make them, you know, quit the game because now they lost their favorite toy, and that's just not what those players want to see. So in the long run, this is a bit of a satisfaction for you, especially for me, as I am not a friend of too many planes in Tank RB. It's called Tank RB. So I hope you got the message. So I think now we should continue with some further clips, shall we? So this scene was just recorded a few hours ago. Again, I'm in the capture zone, acquiring the necessary spawn points, not wasting here my precious XM1, you know, because reserve tanks are cheap. I looked at here that I have enough of the spawn points, and yeah, let's just leave the tank. And this time the challenger actually gets the kill, and I see where he is. He's hulled down in its favorite position, you know, shooting up tanks at long range. And there I am, just seconds later, already in the retaliation run, and with the second rocket, I get eye for an eye on this tank, you know. He just did its job, and he actually struck me with an artillery strike. And here I come with a plane just choo choo choo, bombing him or rocketing him out of the, you know, out of his life. And I think this is how you can use those rockets in direct fire, and they're highly efficient at doing this. As you can see here, another critical hit, and I show you those rather average clips, and in the long run it would have been possible to get 5 kills with 5 rockets, and it would have been very impressive. But at the end I tried to do, you know, the stuff that is important. And let's just finish off this poor guy, and another camper dead with a perfect strike on the rooftop. And that was actually an Abrams, so it was actually a pretty dangerous tank. And now it's returning to base. Another aspect of this plane is how relatively easy it is to land. So I deployed here the air brakes and also the landing flaps and just the gears. when I was at low enough speed, and then also the cannons helped me at breaking the plane. And yeah, it's that easy to actually land the plane. It's one of the easiest jets that I've ever landed, except for the Me-262 when landings on the engine. In a few seconds we're back up in the air. So now let's have a look at some other actions, and this is now another match. Again, I went into the reserve tank, just got here the spawn points required, and then I make my attack run. That was a bad rocket and it was just a bit too far away from blowing up this tank. Another attack run on another tank in a very similar spot, and again we got a hit on him. We actually tracked him and took his gun barrel out, and by the way, with those two hits I gave my team the exact coordinates where those two tanks are. They are now suppressed. They tried to get into visual cover under the trees, restricting their freedom of movement and so forth. Now in this scene it's also very important that I, well, do not fire the rockets because the status of the target was unclear, and you still can detonate the rockets on trees and then the damage effect is greatly reduced. There is an SPA firing at another plane, and look at the distance of where I initiate hull break. Look at this. This is the rocket and there is the target. That was like 2 or 3 tank lengths away. Now the enemy sent some plane reinforcements and I could go head on with the LA-7, and again the plane can take some damage, and while I was pursuing MiG-15 there was another SPA. He was actually on the move, and again the same story. Now I know exactly who gets wet dreams over this kind of scenario. Again, here is actually a tank in the woods, and look at where the splash is. I ammo rack him from the rear with the HE splash. I don't know about you, but this is wrong, and on this bombshell, quite literally, the guided bombshell, I end the video. And as a endgame scenario, I show you this kind of scene from some Abrams and XM1s that just ignore me while I am very close in a mixed battle, because this is another result of this plane getting spammed out. We see so many more mixed matches in tank RB, not arcade. This is realistic battles where every nation fights each other, and I think this is not what we play tank RB for. Now if I want to fight my own kin, I actually would play kind of arcade, and as you know, some of my older subscribers, arcade, there is nothing wrong about arcade, but if I want to play realistic, it at least should stick to the name. And yeah, that's it for me today. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section what you think about this whole topic. Am I exaggerating? Is this too much? Or do you actually, what do you think about this whole explanation of mine? Let me know in the comment section. So again, give the video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other on the waves, in the skies, and on the battlefields of War Thunder.